Okay, back again with a little segment I call, well, matchmaking. Where do I think the fighters that competed on UFC 79 are going? Who do I think they're going to fight? Who do I think they should fight? This is a little segment I'm going to do, and I'm going to start at the bottom with the Doug Evans-Mark Boschek fight. Doug Evans lost by decision. We might not see him again. If we do see him again, I would have put him up against someone who's looking at a similar position. You know, one more loss and they're out, because he's got to prove his worth. He's got to be given a match that he really can, of course, but no one's immediately coming to mind because I don't see any of the current 155ers getting bounced anytime soon. I mean, there's a lot of good matches for him, just not one that would suit the situation. So I'm going to skip that one for now. Perhaps Joe Veras if he loses to Corey Hill. I'll throw that out there. Boschek 1-1 in the UFC now with a loss to Frank Edgar, a victory over Doug Evans. Going up in the world, he's a good submission grappler. Got some decent hands, pretty good wrestling. I would like to see him fight perhaps. Who's coming off winner or loss? Actually, I think him and Joe Lozon for some reason would be a really good fight, and it would make kind of sense. Other than that, perhaps Matt Wyman's another option. These are the really only two names that come to mind immediately. Tony De Souza, Ron Carneiro. Tony probably done in the UFC, I'm thinking. Probably done. So I'm not really going to speculate on his next opponent, but Carneiro, he's got a big win. Perhaps he fights Thiago Alves. Perhaps he fights the winner of Josh Burkman, Mike Swick. Perhaps he fights I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch with John Fitch, but that's a horrible waste of John Fitch's talents. No one else rarely comes to mind, but I'd say it's either the winner of Swick Burkman or Thiago Alves is a really good idea, or Marcus Davis if he defeats Jess Liam. Jordan Radjev, Dean Lister. Dean Lister winning by unanimous decision. We probably won't see Radjev again because this is two bad outings for him in the UFC. Usually spells your end. Dean Lister. Yeah, well, it depends on what Dean Lister comes to play. I mean, the Dean Lister that apparently came and played against Jordan Radjev, I mean, that's a solid guy that I wouldn't mind seeing him fight anyone. But the Dean Lister we usually get is somewhat weaker. Perhaps fighting Demian Maia or Thales Leitis would be a good idea. Other than that, maybe go striker grappler with Martin Kampmann if he can get back, but Martin Kampmann's not going to be back for a while. Yeah, that's pretty good. Manny Gambirian, Nate Moore. Nate Moore will probably be out with a torn ACL for a while, but I really want to see him fight Jeremy Stevens. That fight was supposed to happen and didn't end up happening, and I want to see that fight still. Manny Gambirian, he's a tank. I'd like to see him fight Tyson Griffin because I think they're kind of similar, and I personally think Tyson's going to lose to Gleison Tebow and need a somewhat lower profile match maybe. And Manny Gambirian, I think, solidifies that. Or the rematch with Nate Diaz is, of course, always a very good possibility. Other than that, yeah, he's kind of small to go up against the wrestlers of the likes of Clay Guida and Frankie Edgar. Otherwise, I'd suggest that, but I don't think those would be the most competitive matches because Manny's a bit smaller. Yeah, somehow Tyson Griffin beats Gleison Tebow. I wouldn't mind seeing Manny fight Gleison Tebow, but I think Gleason's going to win. But I think that's pretty sufficient. Louis Kane, James Irvin winning by disqualification after the illegal knee. I want to see this fight again because personally, I don't really know where to throw James Irvin in to the bucket. And I mean, Louis Kane deserves a shot to show his stuff against James Irvin again. Basically, I want to see them rematch. I don't really want to see them fight anyone else. Eddie Sanchez, Sal Palele. Sal Palele, it depends. He lost this one. He looked pretty bad doing it. If the UFC wants to build him up, they'll feed him someone like Scott Junk, a guy he can beat. As for Eddie Sanchez, a couple of good names come to mind. Czech Congo, Christian Walish, Justin McCulley, or Anthony Hardock. These are all pretty good names that I'd like to see him fight. Melvin Gillard, hoping he's done, won't predict an opponent. Rich Clemente, he stays at 155. There's a couple of good, interesting opponents, because I mean, Rich can give anyone a fight at 155. I'm not sure about 170. At 155, let me think a little bit here. Depends on what they want to do to him. If they want to use him as a proving ground, like, you know, if you can beat Rich Clemente, you make the grade, or if they want to actually maybe give him a little push to win some matches and beat some contenders. No one immediately comes to mind. Like I said, Clemente can put a pretty good fight together with anyone, which is always interesting in picking a fight for him, is that he could fight pretty much anyone and make it good. But perhaps Alvin Robinson's a decent idea. Perhaps Spencer Fisher would be a good idea. But I'd like to see that one. I wouldn't be ill opposed to him fighting basically anyone at Kenny Florian, or even a rematch with Dean Thomas. But yeah, he's an interesting opponent for a lot of people. Roman Thierry Sokoudjou losing to Lito Machida. What to do with Sokoudjou? The thing is, Sokoudjou is a grappler killer because he's hard to take down and he's got good knockout power. But 205 doesn't have as many pure grapplers as we'd like to see. But I would put Sokoudjou versus Rashad Evans or Tito Ortiz if you want to highlight his skills against a known opponent. If you don't want to kill the, well, I suppose Tito doesn't really have a rising power, but if you don't want to kill the, you know, the fact that Tito with the UFC fans, or the current push Rashad Evans is getting, bring back someone like Hector Sekdog Ramirez, or maybe Jason Lambert would be a decent idea. Lito Machida, I really want to see fight Keith Jardine. I think that basically is what it boils down to. I want to see him fight Jardine, and as a secondary pick because Thiago Silva would be pretty good too. Next we have Vanderlei Silva versus Chuck Liddell. Depends on the length of Vanderlei's contract, because I mean they were paying this as kind of the loser is done, which is not. Which I think if it had been Chuck losing, we wouldn't have been complaining because Chuck's 38 years old and everything. But Vanderlei would make a great matchup with Houston Alexander. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. I don't know if you make that match. I don't know if that's a good idea even, but it would be a hell of a match. As for Chuck, he's got to fight someone relatively in the title picture, I suppose, if you want to keep him in title contention. I'm sure he wants to stay in title contention. Immediately, names don't really come to mind immediately. Perhaps Lyoto Machida, although that wouldn't be although that'd be kind of a boring fight, I think. Maybe the winner of Jason Lambert, Wilson Govea, maybe Stephan Bonner, maybe Houston Alexander or Thiago Silva. It would all be decent matches anyways. GSP, well, he's fighting Serra next. Who should he be fighting? It's John Fitch, but he will be fighting Matt Serra next. As for Hughes, I suppose you got to give him a bit of a rebuilding match against someone he could probably beat, possibly the winner of Mike Swick, Josh Berkman. Perhaps you bring Tony D'Souza back and let him have him, but I don't think that's how they'll do it. Perhaps someone of some notoriety, Jess Liauden or Marcus Davis would be a decent match. In the end, I think Swick or Berkman, the winner of that, would be your best bet, but that's just me, or possibly Koscheck in a wrestler's battle, but I think Koscheck beats him. Anyways, that does it for this card. Let me know if I should do this segment again. Otherwise, I won't if it's not, appreciated. No hard feelings. Signing off.